All right. How's it going, everybody out there? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're at. It's Tuesday, June 24th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. I'm your co-host, CEO, and co-founder of Metafide, Frank Speiser. With me, we've got Keyboard Yeti, Matt Cross, and Big Worm, Serge Torah. And today we're going to be talking a bit about the team, the vision, the project, Metafide, sort of how we got here, why we're doing it, and what we hope to accomplish. And just to give everybody a quick update, you got the Bitcoin is steady at 105 right now, and that's after dipping over the weekend to 98, the lowest it had been since May 7th, due to some political turmoil and uncertainties. But it seems like Bitcoin's back and going strong. The markets seem to have stabilized, and things look pretty good. So I just want to say it's a big week for blockchain in general. We have Matt Cross on the ground in New York City today with some of the team. So how you doing out there, Matt?
Oh man, I'm doing great. We got a heat wave that's hitting everyone right now. So it's hot as hell down here in New York. But it's always refreshing seeing all the faces in crypto. Got to see a bunch of old friends, meet some new people, and just fired up and motivated. Been showing people the game, and they're always obsessed with it. So I like that, always hearing that feedback.
Nice. And how you doing today, Worm?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm staying cool inside while it's really getting really hot here in the Northeast. But yeah, doing well. Excited about crypto. Good to see Bitcoin go back up after some easing of what's happening in Iran and Israel. So some good news happening here.
Nice. Yeah, a little bit of good news to do everybody some good. And I see Yeti is calling in from the future. How you doing out over there?
The future is bright, as it has been, as always is in Australia, or regularly is in Australia. Had a pretty lovely day playing with my puppy. Actually, we got a new puppy, so that's been great.
What kind?
He's a wolfhound cross, so he's not a little puppy, but he's age-wise, he's a little puppy.
Nice, nice man. Yeah. Well, let's kick things off here and let's talk about a little bit about the vision of the project. And I guess you can't tell the story of Metafide without sort of looking back at my previous company and what happened there. So for those of you who've been following or maybe don't know, um, I am the co-founder of a company called Social Flow, and Social Flow is the world's largest distributor of media and has been for the past, 10, 12, sorry, 12 plus years. Social Flow takes all of the inbound content that's going to be pushed to X or to Facebook or Instagram or TikTok for news organizations like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, BBC, Al Jazeera, Reuters, the Associated Press. It takes all that stuff and it figures out based on what the audience is reacting to and clicking and sharing what you have that could do well in the current competitive topical climate. Uses a lot of AI, and we built this starting back when there was no AI frameworks, and we basically had to kind of roll these things ourselves because you can't classify 400 million pieces of content a year with a team of 70 people. It's just you needed to use different techniques and different methods to do it. And what we wound up doing was first getting really successful at publishing to the general social public, right? It was a new channel for news organizations. They weren't used to doing it, and it gave them a way to succeed with content because people want to pay attention. When everybody was going out and figuring out ways to make friends with brands, my co-founder Mike Perone and I decided that was stupid. Like no one wants to be friends with Tide, or Ford. Like nobody wants to be friends and follow the updates of brands. Occasionally somebody has a witty tweet, or you get Wendy's and McDonald's going back and forth sometimes. That's fun to watch, but really, as I'm sure most of you have been annoyed with over the years, people are sharing the news, giving their comments on it. Everybody is either, a an expert in week to week. They're experts in missile in missile types, and before that, they're experts in sort of diplomacy, and before that, they're experts in constitutional law, and then everybody's sharing news to back it up, and there's a lot of discussion that goes around it. But one thing that we did was find a way to figure out which is really hot content and then create what's essentially a private exchange behind the scenes. And instead of getting paid run of site, basically the way ads work, like the leftover ads served over the best content, we formed a way to figure out to bring premium inventory up so that instead of bidding, $2 a thousand views CPM, you're getting 200 on some of them. And we wound up building essentially a way for the media to get paid very well for succeeding on social. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Like it was a huge success. We had 3.5 billion cookies when we sold the company every month. So we were seeing clicks from, probably 5 billion, 5 to 6 billion clicks a month off of the content. And essentially everywhere it was legal to put a cookie on someone's phone, we had it. So we could do all sorts of predictive stuff. And the data was really interesting. But one of the things I look back at is, understanding that we essentially helped the media make enough money to behave badly so that they didn't have to necessarily serve their audience all the time. They were able to pick and choose what stories they wanted to run because they knew they could make it up. And instead of being, greedy or efficient or whatever, they would run stories that not necessarily serve the interest of their audience. And I look back at that and I think, was that necessarily a good thing, given the media a lifeline and helping it, reform itself through that, which maybe might have destroyed it if the natural course of things took over and there was no social flow. So, when that got sold, I became the CEO of an AI company in Boston, which was a chat client company. And I thought, well, I see where this is going. You can see the writing on the wall with chatbots, and I could understand that GBT was just getting going. It was about to eat the world. So we moved to what's called robotic process automation. And during COVID, the institutional knowledge transfer of companies was sort of gutted. So you couldn't go like the way everybody has process documents and ways to navigate around your company, but really the way things get done when you want to pay an invoice and you're not sure how to do it, and you just walk down to Alice in accounting and you say, hey, how does this work? Like, how do I get this done? And that was pulled out of companies because you couldn't stand near someone in the office and everybody was working remotely. So we built this way to fire off a bunch of automated processes and then do that. So that we got that company sold. The current CFO of Metafide, Gunnar Link, he was the CFO there with me, and we wound up selling that company. So once that was over, I got a chance to look back and see, all right, well, what do I want to do with the chance here? I've just sold 2 companies in a row back to back, and what do I want to do that could make up for potentially keeping the media in business? Like what type of penance could I do? So, I started looking around and we realized that there was a lot of nonsense in crypto. There's like, I've been buying Bitcoin since 2010 for the reason Satoshi put in the Genesis block. So if everybody goes back and looks, you'll see, Satoshi was complaining about quantitative easing, QE2 specifically, and bailing out the banks with the people's money and devaluing everybody's purchasing power everywhere. And central banks were going crazy with free money, And essentially, when you look at what happened during COVID, they just printed a bunch of free money too. It's essentially the same thing as, if somebody robbed your local community bank and you had money in there and they went in and took half of it or most of it, you'd be pissed. But what happened in the world during quantitative easing, during the Bear Stearns cascading fuckery, whatever you want to call it, uh, when that happened, they printed a bunch of money. Bankers still got their bonuses. When COVID hit, they just printed a bunch of money. And essentially, that's the same thing as going to that community bank. And instead of going in and robbing it, they just pull up with a bunch of duplicate dollar bills and they throw them in the street, and everybody can go grab them. So everybody that made the right decisions and saved and stretched and scratched and did everything they needed to do to defer consumption was essentially penalized by all this free money hitting the system. And that is kind of where we find the start of what we wanted to do with Metafide, which is, get people involved in a financial system that benefits them, that does so in a way that doesn't require you jumping over these giant hurdles to get access to it, because AI is going to change the financial system, and the current way of doing it with the top down distributed hierarchical model, where whoever is closest to the power gets rewarded with easy money to lend out at rates that essentially are protected no matter how irresponsible you do it, you wind up getting bailed out when you make your mistakes. We didn't think that was right. So, in talking through with Matt and some others, Matt at the time was a VC and made the first investment into Metafide. We built a rating system, and essentially tried to figure out which tokens were worth holding. The short of it is, most tokens were bullshit, and most of them didn't have real communities, and most of them didn't have real sustained technicals to them. So we built a rating system that told everybody don't buy most of crypto, which isn't necessarily a growth story, but it was accurate. And we did a bunch of things, like we predicted the depegging of USDC with some of the predictive stuff that we did. We wound up picking the return of crypto. When crypto came out of crypto winter, we saw it 2 weeks in advance, and that was really interesting. But we realized that in order to get properly introduced and do something for everybody, we needed to do it in a way that was quicker to reward people, instead of taking just a long-term view of ratings, sort of what was happening in the near term with assets that were on these markets. So that brings us to here, and we just didn't think it was happening fairly. Matt, do I have everything right up to this point here?
Yeah, I would say you have everything right. It was a great system we built, except it rated a majority of the assets below a C. The only really good assets at the time were Bitcoin and USDC. And one of our big accomplishments at the time was catching the depegging of USDC 3 hours in advance. So we had done that through contagion modeling. We're the only company to have done that. And we found less people in the industry cared about what the quality of assets were at the time.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, trying to convince people to take their medicine, do the responsible and prudent thing. Not necessarily a lot of fun in that, and didn't necessarily mesh well with the instant gratification drive of most audiences. So, instead of swimming upstream, what we decided to do is, all right, look, let's just use AI to sort of forecast the near-term price of assets, and then let people add the last mile of signal. Because if you're just using what's on the markets and you're pulling down trading data like we are off of Binance and Kyobi and Kraken and all these other exchanges, you only see what goes up for a bid or for an ask. And there's a lot of interesting things that happen in crypto. People take decoy positions. So sometimes people will put a position up, withdraw it to sort of pull the market one way or the other. When markets start to fall in the crypto space, you'll notice right up until the institutions started getting involved and sort of picking up whenever there's a discount in price. So if Bitcoin, like it did this weekend, fell to 98, you'll see institutions jump in and buy. Whereas prior to that, it might have fallen $25,000, and that was because people once things are heading down, a lot of weird things happen where if it's just institutions versus retail, the institutions are willing to like trick retail back into the system by giving them false hope and putting these, you know, what are look like support floors in, and then pulling the rug out from everybody and letting it drop more, causing more panic, scooping up the assets. And that's unfortunately a pretty common thing. And we realized that that wasn't fair. And people kind of tell the difference, but it wasn't enough to get a signal out there and start to understand it. So, then you had the ETFs get approved, and now everybody's competing for the top tier blue chip assets. And that's kind of the situation we find ourselves in now. Not necessarily navigable by normal people. So, we realized that the intuition of people not present in the buy and the sell, orders going into the market, like we needed to get that into the signal to make predictions from, because it could be more accurate. 23% more accurate, by the way, according to our research, where we can essentially harvest more than 23% of the volatility of just raw AI models. And that seemed like something worth doing. Essentially giving people tools to participate in helping us do it, getting them rewarded for their input, and then going and then transacting that for our hedge funds. And once we launch, transacting it in a pool that we are going to make available to reward the people who stake to that. So you'll be able to get rewarded by holding the token, because we have a deflationary system. We burn tokens every game and every 90 days when we transact our own treasury. But what we also will do is transact a pool, essentially market make or whatever you want to call it, by basically showing proof that the signal we're doing is working in yet another way, and then letting certain users that can win enough and accrue enough tokens to stake into the pool to share some of the outcome. So yeah, it fixes a lot of things I think that are wrong with the current system. And Matt, you and I talk about that all the time, right? Like what is unfair to retail and sort of what it's been like so far. So when you decided to come over from the venture capital firm that you were working with, like what essentially brought you over to us? Because you could see a bunch of different companies, you could see what was going on. So what about this made you think, well, I'll live the starving life of a founder for a little bit? Like what made you decide to get into this? Like, do you just like dropping hammers on your feet, or what made you really want to do this?
Well, besides I like actually earning things, I saw a lot of the VC making decisions that I wouldn't agree with. And, a lot of money got invested into these consumer applications that I didn't see the infrastructure was ready for right now. We didn't have the UI or UX to support these types of applications. I saw, a bunch of things get funded and ideas that I didn't really think would exist in the next couple of years. I saw, a lot of VCs just kind of keep funding another layer ones, other layer twos out there. And I kept believing, oh, this is segmenting up the space. It's not really helping drive the greater vision. A lot of what I got into this industry for is, more alongside the OG crypto beliefs of building out a real world of decentralized finance. And then I started to see a lot of money grabs and, quick liquidity schemes, I would say. And I started to really doubt some of these bright minds who are supposedly funding the space. And I always wanted to bring it back to what I thought it should be. And when I looked at, all the other founders I was investing in or working with out there, a lot of them are really intelligent and great people. But one of the things I saw is you have to have a special type of person who can do this. There's a million ups and downs. It's more of a roller coaster than just even holding assets. There's a type of founder who has to really be able to brave a storm, and also the type of person who has to be able to say, fuck you to other people and stick to their guns. Because
hey, we can do that.
We're good at doing that. Everybody in this industry tries to tell people to do this or do that. And a lot of these founders ended up just kind of going with the way of the ocean. They were swaying one way or the other. They didn't really know what to do. They just wanted to make some quick money. And I got sick and tired of seeing all the grifters out there, and said, okay, we need to bring this back to real DeFi. And I believed in you, more than any other founder in the space. I've seen what you've accomplished in the past, and I said, hey, I got to come on board with these guys, because I know Frank's going to do everything he said he's done, because he's always done things the right way since day one. And I've never been more proud or happy about my choice joining this team.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Thanks for the good words. And there's been plenty of times when we could have just thrown in a towel and folded up shop. Like you and I have gone through I want to say 3 separate times where we didn't pay ourselves, and we made sure we were paying everybody else instead. And as we've got this thing all to where it needs to go, you can't just do that with everybody. Like not everybody's just going to be okay with that. And for everybody out there looking to start a company, I mean, the system is kind of rigged against you, but it's not impossible. You just have to plan for everything not going according to perfect plan. And that's what I see is kind of wrong with the Web3 space right now, where, like you alluded to, I don't know if anybody pays attention, but sometimes you're like, why the hell did that project get $40 million of investment? And then they sit on it and don't do anything. But the reality is they're actually doing something. They're just chasing the input of their investors and the people around them, saying like, DePin's the hot thing, like this over here is like, these liquid staking protocols are the new thing, like, and it just chase from one to another with no conviction on how to improve the life for the people using your project, right? Like if you don't have the people that are using your project in mind and try to make their life better, faster, cheaper, more accessible, like it's not going to work. If you just go around chasing trends, you wind up not building anything of lasting value. And that's a lot what's going on right now, where these teams, it's not like they're not doing anything. They're just chasing advice of people trying to maximize their portfolio. And I think in this space, especially when the way it started out, is Web3 got too clicky in the beginning. You had all these people saying, well, are they Web3 native? Fuck you, Web3 native. Like, what does that mean? Like you want me to jump through extra steps and jump through hoops so that a small subset of nerds can like sit around and pat each other on the back because they got through the thing. It took me and another friend of ours, a guy named Evan Helikius. He was product, basically product team at Facebook, Harvard Business graduate. It took me and him a week to figure out how to get into Axie Infinity, like to get up and playing. And I know now it would be a little bit easier, but Web3 can't be like that. So when we started looking at what we needed to do, we said, all right, first we need to get the messaging, get that out there, and start to make it work. Let's build a community, which Yeti and Roaming have helped us do. Let's start tracking things, with Frank here has helped us do. Big Worms helped us figure out what we need to do. And, let's start then to market it, which Ashley on the call here is helping us do as well. And then we went out in order to convey the message. We started to do stuff that I'd done at previous companies, one of which was Heavy. Heavy was my first CTO job. I'd been running my own consulting shop before that. Heavy.com is still around. You can see it. It's when I got there were 2 developers there, and then we built it into this essentially it was about a third the size of YouTube, at the time. So it got pretty successful. We got Brian here to help get video content and start connecting with people both internally to the company and externally. And then recently we've added a guy named Adrian Roman to the team. And Adrian, in addition to being a world famous artist, he's exhibited in, he's got an exhibit in the Smithsonian right now. He's got um, essentially he's done the Whitney. He's done a bunch of really, really great spots with his art. But the concept of making things visually accessible to people, and like you said, interfaces that make sense to folks. We've been working with him for a while, but I finally convinced him to leave his job as the principal, like the design lead at Walmart, and come here and help us, right? So Brian and Adrian and I worked together back in 2006 at Heavy, and we've all kept in touch and kind of come here to start getting messaging through. And essentially, if you want to mimic the way, like, memes are essentially a fun form of propaganda, and so understand mimetic culture and understand the way it needs to make sense to people. Everybody that's been playing in the game so far can tell that the UI is on point, that what we're doing is made for people to not have to jump through the clickiness of Web3. It's not inaccessible. It's easy. You can get up and going in the game in like 2 minutes. You just need a social login. You can have a wallet, and then it walks you through the process, and it doesn't alienate you on the way in, which has been a problem. Like, you're not cooler by excluding people. Like, you have to help everybody and try to shoot for something that works for everybody. And that's what our team does. We spend a lot of time and energy in what we're doing, in what it feels like for the user. Like, empathy for your user matters. It might be the thing that matters the most. Like, Facebook became popular because MySpace got to be a clusterfuck of people messing around with their HTML, and you'd land on the page and people's stupid songs would be playing, and if, for all of you that are too young to remember it, like, it's probably a good thing because you had some creativity, but it was a mess. And the accessibility of Facebook and leading people into a few key things that created engagement and activity was a great way of listening to people. We just have applied that here, and all of those things added up, like, have brought us to where we are now. So as we go to roll this out, everybody should, by the way, pre-register, because we're going to be giving rewards and early access to people on the wait list, which is surge.metafide.io, surge.metafide, metafide.io. If you register there, surge.metafide.io, you'll be on the wait list. We're going to introduce a way to move up the wait list pretty soon, but we'll start letting people into the games probably within a month or so, and we're going to expand the beta testing even this week. So we're starting to let people in and let people play these games and get involved with participating in the financial system in a way that their input gets them paid, their holding the token will get them paid, and then their ability to invest back in us will get them paid. So I think that's a fair way to do things. I don't know what the hell everybody else is doing, to be honest with you, but that's the way we're going to do things. We're going to make sure that people get paid, the right people get paid, and the right people get taken care of as early as possible. Not one of these credit systems where your buddies that you golf with or went to prep school with are the ones that turn around and cut deals with each other, give each other favorable terms, and then when it goes wrong, turn around and fuck everybody in the system. Like, that we're not doing that. So that's essentially the idea of the project. The team, I've talked through some of it. I could spend an hour on the team because everybody is, like, really bright and motivated, and it's a special group of people. Like, and couldn't have done it without you, Matt, like, to help bring it all together. So essentially, what we're standing on is a way that we can actually help change the way that investments happen, the way that people are involved in the financial system. But we don't make it so inaccessible that it's limited to some preferred clique of people. Like, it'll work for everybody. Even your grandmom, your uncle, your cousin that has a room temperature IQ should be able to navigate it just fine. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. And did I leave anything out, Big Worm?
No, I mean, I don't think you left anything out. I think it's a great story, and I think it's a great story in terms of like what you and Matt built, and I was able to come in kind of late on. And while I was late on Metafide, I was early in knowing Frank in his life, and I must say he's a honorable guy. He always wants to do the right thing. From when I knew him 30 years ago, and all decisions he makes for Metafide in this community are always the right thing. So always trust in his North Star, and everything you said, at the top of the call couldn't be truer.
Yeah, so I just want to thank everybody for listening to me ramble for the previous 25 minutes, and thank everybody that's been involved so far. So we'll get to questions on the next one. Please register surge.metafide.io. Join the Discord. Make sure it's the right one. We have a bunch of imposters out there now. So it's discord.gg/fide, F-I-D-E, -token. That's us. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure you get these spaces and definitely register because you're going to start seeing that work to your benefit. So bring your friends, share it to everybody. We want everybody to participate in this and help us build this as we go because this is just the beginning. So thanks everybody for listening, and I'll see you on the next one Thursday, 4:00 Eastern time, right? I think I got that one. So yeah,
You got it.
4
Yep.
p.m. Eastern time. Yeah. And we'll see everybody on the next one. Take care.
Take care, everyone.